What's good, everybody? This is Dale from Upstate Bets and DFS. Me and Reoz are back here with another NFL future prop video. We did the quarterbacks yesterday. You can still go check out that video. But today we're going to be covering the running backs. So not only rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, but also they have 100-yard rushing games on here as well. They do that for wide receivers as well. 300-yard pass games for quarterbacks. So we love the future bets. It's a cool little thing that PrizePicks did this season. They also do a lot of promotions that they have over here. If you want to sign up for PrizePicks, try it out. Sign up using promo code Upstate when you do that. It'll help me out a ton, help the channel out a ton. So thank you guys if you do that. Thank you guys for checking in to the new NFL season. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and like the video. Riaz, tell them also about the Patreon content.
Yeah, if you want to support us further, check out the Patreon. It's going to be linked in the description below. You can also find it at patreon.com/upstate. We're still doing a ton of MLB over there. Really excited for the NFL season start. We're going to be having Thursday night, all of the Sunday slates, the Sunday night slates, Monday night. So whenever there's football, me and Dal are going to be covering a ton of stuff over on the Patreon along with the YouTube. So a ton of picks coming from me and Dal here for the football season.
Yeah, that video for Thursday night for the Rams and Bills is going to drop 8 a.m. Thursday morning. And tomorrow the wide receiver and tight ends video will come out for the future. So thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right into this, man. My first guy I want to get to is going to be in the rushing touchdowns. That's going to be A.J. Dillon. I like the over on his rushing touchdowns total here. I think he's out for a big season, man. He's only at 6.5 here. Last year finished with 5 touchdowns, but we know this offense is going to look a lot different this year. So, I mean, obviously no Devontae Adams is absolutely huge. So, I think that Aaron Jones is in a position where he can catch around 75 balls this year. I mean, he's a really good red zone threat, Aaron Jones is. But, however, A.J. Dillon, it's not to be ignored. I mean, last year, A.J. Dillon, he was 12th in red zone touches according to playerprofile.com. So, he's getting the red zone touches. I know Aaron Jones is a massive threat, and he does score a ton of touchdowns. But they're going to have to work A.J. Dillon in here, and even Matt LaFleur has said they're 1A and 1A. It's them two are splitting, and between weeks 10 and 18 of last year, Aaron Jones saw 40% of the snaps, and during that stretch, he was RB12 on fantasy leagues for PPR. So, I mean, he's really due for a big season. He's a big sleeper in a lot of these fantasy leagues. I've been taking him, in the sixth, seventh round. I think that's really good value for him, falling, to an RB2 flex spot in there. I really do think he can get around 7 to 8 touchdowns this season as long as everything stays healthy.
Love AJ Dillon. I think he's got a ton of value. I'm really happy with what Aaron Rodgers said. He wants the best 12 guys out there on the field, and I think AJ Dillon definitely is part of that 12. So we're gonna see a lot of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones out here at the same time for a majority of this season. But to start off with my first pick, I'm gonna go over here at rushing yards, and somebody who I'm taking an under on is Cam Akers. His line's sitting at 850 and a half. I mean, coming off an injury 2 seasons ago, he was on pace to really hit this line. 2021, he had 625 yards rushing. He had some up and down games. We saw some monster games where he rushed for over 170 yards, but him coming back super late in the playoffs and a little bit in the regular season, I really didn't like the production we got out of him. I mean, there was games he was getting upwards of 20 rushing attempts, and he couldn't even surpass 50 yards. And especially now with his coach coming out and saying they're going to be 1A and 1B, or 1A and 1A with Daryl Henderson, I think this is a very high line for somebody that's going to be splitting 50-50 of the carries. Daryl Henderson played very well last season, so he has definitely found a spot, getting a ton of touches this season at 850 and a half. There's no shot we're going to see two 1,000 yard rushers on this Rams team, and this is definitely somebody I feel really comfortable taking the under at.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Cam Akers, just absolutely fantastic what he was able to do. I mean, goes down with the Achilles injury, comes back in the playoffs, and just a matter of like one of the quickest turnarounds a medical staff has ever seen for that Achilles injury. Comes back in the playoffs. To his credit, it's very hard to run on Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay was like one of the best fronts in the NFL. So I mean, it's hard to run on Tampa Bay, and then the Super Bowl. At the end of the day, everyone's playing their heart out in the Super Bowl. It's tough to get things going, and eventually to just kind of work back into that offense so late into the season. But I do like the under here. I mean, when it comes to a split, Cam Akers, he's either boom or bust, man. I mean, I can see him either going for 1,000 or running for around like 625, 675. Henderson taking a lot, maybe Akers taking a lot of the receptions, to getting a lot of targets and screen work and stuff like that. But I can't see him getting a heavy workload, especially going up to 850 and a half. I really do like the under on Akers for sure, man. I actually have another under here. I'm gonna take. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs here, under 750 and a half. I like the under on Josh Jacobs for a couple of reasons. I mean, right now, the biggest reason is the Raiders' offensive line is absolutely horrible. I mean, there's a lot of people who are high on the Raiders, in terms of an offense and the team, and, Derek Carr, some people put him in the elite category. I mean, but he adds Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, solid. Hunter Renfro is up for a good year. So at the end of the day, that offensive line ranks 29th in the league right now. Bad offensive line. They've whiffed on a ton of draft picks. They whiffed on that first round left tackle. They just released him. They got to work something in the offense real quick. Not only that, they bring over Josh McDaniel from New England, who is just known to have a committee. I mean, when you think of New England, you don't think of a number one guy. You think of guys just getting worked in. Like, remember the James Whites of the world, the Rex Burkhouts, the LeGarrette Blunts, just guys getting, 8 to 10 carries a game and just constantly mixing together these running backs. So I do think it's going to be a committee. Over the course of the offseason, they declined his fifth year option. They bring in Brandon Bolden. They bring in Amir Abdullah, and they use a fourth round pick on Zamir White. All this goes on, and then in a game where you don't even expect the starter to play in the Hall of Fame game, the first preseason game of the entire year, Josh Jacobs is out there getting 10 carries right in the first drive. So I don't know how they're going to use Josh Jacobs. I just know that I know the way Josh McDaniels runs his offense. We've seen it in New England plenty of years, and we've seen success in it. So I do think it's going to be committee back there. He was dealing with a little bit of a foot injury last year, dealing with some, ankle stuff last year that obviously can hurt him. Obviously, things can come back around. And then they had Kenyon Drake in the backfield last year. And when Kenyon Drake was healthy, Josh Jacobs only averaged 13.1 carries. So you take all this into account, you bring in a couple other running backs, a rookie running back. They decline his option. I just don't see Josh Jacobs having a big year here at all, man. Obviously the injury bug can hit anybody, can hit even these top guys, and these guys can go under. But, even if he stays healthy, injuries aside, I love the under here on Josh Jacobs.
Really love that pick. The key points there were uh, Josh McDaniels coming in. It was a great point. There really hasn't been a true number one running back for anybody in that Josh McDaniels offense in years. And the fact that they declined his fifth year option, they brought in a rookie running back, just goes to show they don't really have that much faith in Josh Jacobs. I do think he's a great running back, but I really like this under. The last guy I want to talk about is somebody that you will like, Najee Harris here, over at the 100 yards, rushing yards. His line sitting at 3.5. I really like this over. This is something that is just kind of crazy when you look at it at 3.5. I mean, we saw monster games out of him last year. He had 370 touches, 1,200 yards rushing. I mean, this is just a three down back. This is somebody who they have no problem giving him the ball 20, 25 times a game, and we saw that all last year. I love running backs going into their second season, especially somebody as talented as him. I think he's going to take another step forward this year. I think Trubisky being in the backfield helps, even if they do play Kenny Pickett. I really don't mind him at quarterback as well. They lost Juju. I think they're going to really rely on him touching the ball 25, 20 times every single game. And they got a pretty easy schedule. I mean, I saw the Colts who struggled against the run. I saw the Jets. The Browns haven't looked that great. I know they're in a tough division playing Cincinnati twice a year, but at 3.5, it's really hard to fade this line, and especially somebody who I think is going to take that next step forward. I could really see him having a monster year. Getting almost 400 touches would not shock me. I think he's going to be an absolute workhorse, and the only thing that would prevent him from not hitting this line is an injury.
Yeah, I mean, volume is king. At the end of the day, if someone's getting the volume, you gotta go to the volume. And Najee Harris is a guy who's definitely gonna get a solid workload. The thing that scares a lot of people away from the line, and probably why it brings the line down, is the Steelers' offensive line is not very good. We got Trubisky out there though, who's got some wheels on him. He had a statue in Ben Roethlisberger out there last year. So Trubisky, they can probably work a nice, some nice read options in there to kind of swing these defensive ends out of the mix and get Najee Harris in some really cool, backfield, some jet sweeps, stuff like that. A lot of cool ways to work Najee Harris into this offense, and not just, shove him up the middle. I think Najee Harris is definitely due for a good 5, maybe 600-yard games this season, and he's a guy that has that potential, like a Derrick Henry that can do it in a play. He's a guy that definitely can go 70, 80 yards in a play. Has that breakaway ability. We've seen the stiff arms, the hurdles out of him. Very exciting person to watch. And I do think with the schedule that they got and some of the games that definitely could be cold up in Pittsburgh. Sometimes in that division they're going to play Baltimore, can be cold. Cincinnati can be cold. They're going to be handing the ball off. Those are games where he can see 20, 25 touches and just eclipse that mark just based on volume. So I really like Najee Harris here. And I like the 4 picks here, Reoz. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I love these picks. I love that we sprinkled in some unders. We took some overs. I think these are great running back. I think there's a ton of value in these picks, and I'm just excited for the football season to start. I can't wait to get the wide receiver futures out, and then Thursday night football, of course. I can't wait for that game.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to be back on the channel as well. Thank you all the newcomers. Thank you to everyone that's been sticking around since the beginning. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Make sure to check out the Patreon link down in the description below. Like the video if you got any knowledge out of this, if you're playing these futures. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.